My wife left 2 weeks before me to spend time with our daughter and son-in-law. She kept telling me everything was perfect. I missed them so much that I decided to surprise everyone without telling a soul. I packed my bags, drove for hours, and finally reached their quiet neighborhood. I had one hand on the front gate when their elderly neighbor suddenly ran toward me. Out of breath, she grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't knock, please listen to me first." Before I could ask why, police cars came racing down the street, and in that moment, I realized my family had been hiding a terrifying secret from me. For 32 years, my wife Linda and I had built a peaceful life together. Our daughter Emily had recently married Daniel, a kind young engineer who had just bought their first home in another state. When Linda announced she wanted to spend 2 weeks helping Emily settle into married life, I happily agreed. She called me every evening, laughing, saying everything was wonderful. But something felt different. Her conversations became shorter. Emily stopped answering my messages. Daniel always seemed busy. I convinced myself they were simply enjoying life. Still, I missed them terribly, so I decided to surprise everyone. I packed homemade cookies, flowers for Linda, and Emily's favorite photo album. The drive took almost 8 hours. As I turned onto their quiet street, everything seemed normal. Children played outside. Birds chirped. The house looked peaceful. I smiled. Then everything changed. Before I could reach the front porch, an elderly neighbor rushed across her lawn. She looked frightened. She grabbed my sleeve. "Don't knock," she whispered. "I've been waiting for someone from your family." My heart started pounding. What happened? She looked toward the house before speaking quietly. "For the past week, strangers have been coming here every night. Your daughter cries almost every evening. Yesterday I heard shouting. And this morning, someone called the police." I felt my knees weaken. "What are you talking about?" She pulled out her phone. "I recorded something because I was scared." She played a short video. I heard shouting, Daniel yelling, Emily crying, a loud crash, then silence. Before I could process it, 3 police cars suddenly pulled into the driveway. Officers quickly approached the house. I ran behind them. The front door slowly opened. Emily stood there, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked shocked to see me. "Dad!" She burst into tears and hugged me. Inside the house, Linda was sitting on the couch, shaking. Daniel stood quietly with another officer. I expected the worst. Instead, the lead officer explained everything. Daniel had discovered someone had been secretly using his identity to commit financial fraud. For days, threatening people had been coming to the house demanding money he never owed. The shouting the neighbor heard wasn't abuse. It was Daniel arguing with scammers who kept returning. Emily had been terrified. Linda didn't tell me because she didn't want me driving alone while worried. That morning, one of the men returned again. This time, Emily immediately called the police. The officers arrived just as I reached the house. Within hours, detectives arrested 2 suspects connected to an identity theft ring operating across several states. Weeks later, peace finally returned. Daniel cleared his name. Emily smiled again. Linda apologized for hiding the truth. I simply hugged my family tighter than ever before, because that day taught me something priceless. Sometimes the greatest surprise isn't discovering a secret. It's discovering your family still has each other after surviving one. As I drove home weeks later, I kept replaying one moment in my mind. If that neighbor had stayed silent, if Emily hadn't called the police, if I had arrived just a few minutes earlier, our lives might have changed forever. Family isn't measured by distance. It's measured by the people who refuse to give up on each other when life becomes frightening. Sometimes the greatest heroes aren't wearing uniforms. Sometimes they're simply good neighbors who choose to speak up. If this story touched your heart, remember this. Never ignore your instincts. And never take your loved ones for granted. Sometimes the greatest surprise isn't discovering a secret. It's discovering your family still has each other after surviving one. As I drove home weeks later, I kept replaying one moment in my mind. If that neighbor had stayed silent, if Emily hadn't called the police, if I had arrived just a few minutes earlier, our lives might have changed forever. Family isn't measured by distance. It's measured by the people who refuse to give up on each other when life becomes frightening. Sometimes the greatest heroes aren't wearing uniforms. Sometimes they're simply good neighbors who choose to speak up. If this story touched your heart, remember this. Never ignore your instincts and never take your loved ones for granted.